Good evening. Little beard hair in my mouth. Took me a little while to get on here. So about that, had to reboot the site. But anyway, it's Saturday night. I got a fire going. This is you see, I got my hoodie on me and my little jacket here because this is the first cool night of the year. It's about 60 degrees now, which is pretty cool for us this time. Compared to what we've been experiencing, and it's going to get down to the upper 40s tonight. So the fire is welcome. We've been busy this week around the farm getting things ready for winter. Today, busted a little bit harvesting buckwheat. My pigs got their first taste of buckwheat and enjoyed it. And then I overseeded with some barley and winter wheat as well. So it's been a pretty good day. Just got some news a little bit ago from my brother. My sister-in-law's mother just passed away this evening. Long battle with cancer. My sister-in-law's been up and back up to West Virginia and back to Florida numerous times as her mother's been home with hospice, and sometimes the long drawn out things like that are worse on the family than instant and sudden things. So our thoughts and positive thoughts and good thoughts go out to them as well in this. But so tonight we're here to talk about shrugging, and the world is shrugging. There are several dystopian novels that people have alluded to. Here's everything that's going on. 1984, Brave New World, Aldous Huxley, and most recently we've got the Handmaid's Tale. And if you've not seen that, that's pretty scary dystopianism. Of course, is geared towards I guess a slap at religious fundamentalists, but one of my favorites and one that made a really big impact on me was Atlas Shrugged. And you may not agree with Ayn Rand's philosophies, but the book it really talks about how the corporatist world take over and basically do nothings, where the their product is an inferior product, but it's supported by their government payments and the government, and that's pretty much the way it is with what we. I mean, let's face it, the United States has pretty much been a fascist nation since the days of FDR, where corporate and the corporations and the government work hand in hand in order to enslave the people and keep them doing what they wish for them to do. And there's no real free market because of that, because of regulations. You've seen some of my videos where I talk about the regulations and the problem with licensing and those kind of things. If you look into the history of the founding of the AMA, you'll understand that the American Medical Association was not founded to promote good health or promote healthy practices or promote good medicine. It was actually created to foment to promote doctors as gods, basically, and to eliminate any challenge to the Western medicine. And in fact, who was it? Vanderbilt, I believe. No, not Vanderbilt. It escapes me right now, but one of the rich dudes back then who said basically he had invested heavily in the pharmaceutical industry, and that's what the AMA was geared towards doing. So we're seeing that corporatism, that fascism, that marriage of government and corporations, and it's fomented by commercial TV. That the driving. It's kind of interesting too if you notice. if you watch Netflix or if you watch any of the programs, it's kind of a wag the dog situation. You have to watch it with an open eye and an open mind, to understand what's going on. Here we've got Julian Assange, whose trial is coming up, and now Netflix is putting out a movie about Julian Assange to basically skew the public opinion. And but what's happening here with the vaccine mandates and this kind of thing is that there's a whole lot of shrugging going on right now, and my Twitter feed is lit up with Canadians who are just livid over the mandate there. We see the Italians are up in arms because of the vaccine pass, and then everybody makes fun of the French, but the French are standing strong. They've been protesting for months and months and months. And of course, you don't see it on the mainstream media because it doesn't fit the narrative. They want you to think that, again, it's a psyop. It's this idea that everyone's going along, that everyone's doing it, and that you're an oddball for having any type of alternative ideal to what the narrative is and what the scripted narrative is. So, and here in the United States, we just this week, Southwest Airlines, but of course, the media says that it was the weather. Of course, you look at the weather map of the United States, and there's not a cloud over the United States anywhere, but yet they're having all of these delays. It's because the pilots had a sick out. They said, "Hey, we're not going for the mandate. We don't want the mandate. We're going to step back from it." And American Airlines did the same thing, and now the CEOs, of course, of American and Southwest, under pressure from the government, are cracking down. I just read that Southwest Airlines, their pilots are going to be on unpaid leave for up to a year to decide to take the vaccine. One of those highly visible examples we see is Kyrie Irving, the New York Nets basketball player who is foregoing about $3.5 million this year. He said, "I'm not going to get the vaccine." And of course, everyone's calling him crazy and that. But there's a whole lot of this shrugging going on, and the whole idea that there's a pushback, this whole pushback that's coming, makes you realize that, and the strength of the pushback. It was the line from Shakespeare: "Methinks thou dost protest too much." It's when there's so much opposition to something. The meme that says ideas that are so wonderful that they must be enforced by violence, and that's basically what's happening. People's livelihoods are being threatened, for a disease that has a 99.7% survival rate. So there's all this going on. So what? There are nurses who are losing their jobs. People in the medical field who are losing their jobs, and in fact, the vaccine mandate is not a vaccine mandate. It's just basically a suggestion from Joe Biden, because there's no law behind it. There's no law been written behind it, and the government is just threatening the companies with taxes and fines. And of course, the old. I mean, the government operates pretty much like the mob, protection money, and that as long as you wink, wink, nudge, nudge, do what we wish you to do, we'll make sure you stay in business and you're operating profitably, and that's a real issue. And but the thing is this is kind of like a tar baby though, because we've had our hands in this thing for so long, and that's the problem, is that the mindset that we have is that if this falls, what will we do? And that's where they want to keep us. But there's an awakening to this. With every one of these shrugs, there are more and more people saying, "Hey, what the hell is going on?" And we've got to. That's the thing that's got to happen, is we've got to change our mindset away from this whole way that we've always done things. I've written a vocal piece on a new paradigm, and I've talked often about it, that the paradigm has to change from the way that we've done things. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to go back to the way things were. I want things to be different, and I think that's what's happening. Again, one of the most feared cards of the tarot deck is the death card, and that's because everyone fears death, because we've been taught to fear death. But the card is actually a great harbinger of good things, because the old has to be done away with. Chaos has to happen. The order, the centralized government planning order has to be done away with, and that's why they're really pushing so hard on this thing. That's why this whole COVID thing has been whipped and hammered at us, is because there's an awakening. People are starting to see what's going on, and I'm not talking about one party or another, because again, this is not a party thing. Because even if you're red team or blue team, you're not my team. I'm neither team. I don't need to be governed. I don't need someone to tell me what to do with my life. I'm perfectly capable of living my life and deciding how I wish to live my life. And so are you. You are very capable of that. You're but we've got to change our mindset and our perspective. And just give you an example. I If you've seen any of my videos on sustainable permaculture, you know how I feel about lawns and the uselessness of lawns. And we've got all these plants that grow that people have told us are bad because they're weeds. And one of those, of course, is the dandelion. And dandelions are actually great for the soil. They're great for us. But we've been told that they're weeds, and they're ugly, but they're beautiful plants. So they're one of the first pollinators that the bees get in the spring. They provide great nutrients and a lot of antioxidants. The dandelion tea is great for your kidneys, but yet here it is. We've been told that it's a bad thing. Now here's another one. I don't know if you can see the plant, but if you can't, look up it's a fairly decent picture of it. It's called sickle pod, and if you get a chance, look up sickle pod. Sickle pod is a really neat plant. I mean, they grow around here, just a ton of it, and eventually I will figure out and go ahead and harvest it. But here it's considered a weed, but in a lot of countries, this is a staple. They take the leaves and they'll boil the leaves, and they make this kind of paste out of it and form it into balls. And then the balls, they let the balls ferment, and it's high in protein. Another very nutritious plant. Also, the seeds of this can be used for a coffee substitute. Now, again, it goes back to the meditative practice that I have with whose idea is that, and that's where we are here. That's what we've got to understand, is whose idea is that, and to question every truth that we've known. And that's a hard thing for us, because most of us have a deep emotional attachment to those truths. We have it's almost like a love affair with those truths. And we're afraid that somehow we will maybe disintegrate if those truths are taken away from us. A lot of it has to do, again, with most of these truths were either handed down to us from a parental figure or someone that we love and trust, and so that emotional attachment is doubly strong, and even to the point of saying I won't be like that, and then turning around and being exactly like that. So what has got to go on is in order to find the new way, we've got to allow the old structures to be torn down. I just saw a tweet a little while ago from someone who lost their job because they've refused to take the vaccine, and and they it would seem like this terrible thing, but they posted that no, it was one of the best things that has happened to them because it's allowed them to free themselves to do what they really want to do. I mean, my generation, the boomers, grew up with this concept that your whole purpose in life was to work 40 hours a week for 40 years, get your watch, and retire. And nothing whatsoever to concerned with discovering who and what you were here for. Your purpose is defined by a boss. Your whole purpose is defined by punching a clock. And see, it's so hard for me because I want to get back into that, fall back into that, because it's so easy to fall into that, and it's going to take some effort. It's going to take a lot of effort. You've heard me say before. I asked the question: whose idea was it that we get in a box, drive to a box, and eat stuff out of a box? Well, it was the people who made the boxes. Our whole education system has been geared towards filling the corporate needs, filling the workforce, and creating workers, creating citizens who were obedient and patriotic and all that, and not towards educating, not towards actually learning who and what you truly are. So there's a spiritual aspect to this as well, and it's no accident that what I'm seeing in this movement, in this shrugging, is a complication, a coming together of three movements. One is the agorist, anarchist, voluntarist movement, and if you want to know what those are, basically they're summed up in a little thing I told my brother several years ago, which is piss between your own 2 feet. It's basically you decide what's good for you, and you be responsible for that. Don't expect anyone to be responsible for you. You take responsibility for yourself, and allow others to take responsibility for themselves. That you don't need. It's because it's funny. I ask this question all the time of people: do you need to be governed? And unless it's someone who's in the voluntarist, anarchist, agorist area, inevitably they say, no, but those people over there do. Well, you know what, buddy? You worry about you. You let those people worry about them. Because if they're not doing something that's directly affecting you, that's committing an act of violence against you, that's taking something from you, that's hindering you in some way, then it's none of your freaking business. It's not. And one of the worst of these is religion, and the whole thing with gay marriage and all that. It's like, look, and I said this back when I was a pastor. I would tell people, if two guys being married screws up your marriage, then they're not the problem. You got a pretty crappy marriage if that undermines in any way your marriage. So, and it's always the centralized planning people, the government people, which religion is a government is a religion, who are pointing the fingers and saying, those people, watch out for those people. And they keep us in fear. They've got us looking at each other as enemies. And they know that they can divide and separate. But see, all that's coming to an end. So that community began to come together. And then the community of those who practice things like sustainable permaculture, you may call them homesteaders, off-gridders, the people who are actually finding out that in my yard right now, even if I wasn't to plant a single plant, I could pretty much survive at least for a little while in my yard. I've got purslane here, which is a very high quality, high vitamin, high antioxidant uh, plant. I've got dandelions, of course, and then of course I've got the sickle pods here, so I'd have plenty of protein. Um, I've got blackberries that are growing wild here. I've got raspberry. I mean, so uh, that whole concept of being self-sufficient, of not needing uh, someone else to provide for us, that element is coming in. But the third, and this is the one that really throws people because, but it's funny because anyway, it throws people because it's the spirituality movement, and for me, the spirituality movement is in my chaos magic. And if you've seen some of my videos on chaos magic, you understand that chaos magic for me, magic is the act of using my will to create the world that I desire, and so that's a big aspect of it. And not only that, you got mindfulness and people who are living with intent, uh, the secret, all of these things that are pointing to the understanding of quantum physics that says that our mind creates the world that we desire. And so that is actually the biggest answer to dealing with this. And it's the thing that the centralized planners fear the most is becoming absolutely irrelevant. And sorry, the smoke is coming over. The smoke's been blowing from the west, and it's kind of getting me a little bit. Anyway, the wind's been blowing from the west to the east. But anyway, that understanding of creating our inner world, and again, the whole centralized planning thing is an outside in kind of thing that whatever the picture is that they've put out here for us. And let me tell you something, we only perceive with our eyes about 10% or so, maybe even less, more, 10% or so of the light spectrum. If you ever blown one of those dog whistles and seen your dog jump around to something that you can't hear, we don't hear the entire sound spectrum. And those are just two examples. So there is more to this reality than we've been led to believe. And so there are our intent, our whatever we give our attention to. There's a passage of scripture in the Bible that says, "As a man thinks in his heart, so is he." Now that's kind of interesting because there, people would think, "Oh, in the heart, that's just emotions." No, actually, the heart has neural cells in it that are exactly like the brain. In fact, a lot of people in homeopathic medicine and Ayurvedic, however you say that, medicine, are understanding that we actually have three brains. We have a brain here, and there's a brain in our heart, and there's also neural cells in our gut, and that's why this increase in gut health and those things, because there are neural cells in there. So this as a man thinks in his heart, so he is. And that's the thing that they're trying to do, is get you to think in your heart that you're something other than what you really are. And I don't know what you are. I don't know who you are. That's for you to decide. And for me to have this top down understanding that everybody's got to be just alike and on the same page, it's really destructive. It's limiting us as a species. And I think that's kind of what's happening. That's what the shrug is actually all about, is that there are more and more of us who are understanding we don't have to fit in to the centralized planning scheme. We don't have to be what they say we are, that we can produce the world that we desire just by changing our mind. So a lot of that is just simply ignoring the government, ignoring what they're doing. That when they say jump, we say, let's go, Brandon. When they say move, we say no. Do you realize that is the only thing that I hate when I have brain farts. Um, that is a simple act, just to say no. I don't comply. We're seeing it in the cryptocurrencies. We're seeing it in the decentralization of finances. The dollar itself is crumbling. And the thing is if you're not ready for it, if you're not looking for it, if you're not, I guess it's like, you're driving down the highway. If you're not watching for your exit, you'll drive right past it, and then you'll be in the middle of the traffic jam with everyone else. So start looking for that exit. Don't wait until the a mandate has come down and you're forced to make a decision based on fear. Start looking for that exit ramp. Start looking for your way out. Because, and I'll close with this. My pigs are a little active tonight. Oh yeah, I'll tell you, I sold our first pig share this week, so that was another good thing. But anyway, so I'll finish with this. There's another scripture, and again, some of you guys know I used to be a pastor, so I know a lot of Bible, and I know the esoteric meaning behind much of it now. But there's a passage of scripture that says there is no fear in love. Perfect love casts out all fear. And it goes on to say that fear carries with it this idea that we should be punished, that we're not worthy, that we're not good enough. But the thing is that you are, and if you've studied the concept of the hologram, you understand that any part of the hologram has in it the whole imprint of the hologram, that by your very atomic, your molecular makeup, that you carry within you all of the elements of this entire universe within you. And so there is no fear in love. Fear carries with it the idea of punishment, that somehow you're undeserving, that you're not worthy, that you're not good enough. And that idea comes from outside of yourself. So that is the first key. The first key, and you'll see it. You should check out my series on becoming ungovernable. Much more coherent, much more online than my Saturday night rants. But the first key is to love yourself. To love yourself unconditionally. To give yourself permission to be who you are. To give yourself permission to cut away from who everyone else tells you to be. You be you. And let's shrug. Let's get rid of this thing. We don't need government. Each and every one of you is perfectly capable of governing yourself. If you need a set of laws to tell you that it's wrong to kill someone, then there's something wrong with you. If you need a set of laws, you don't need a set of laws to tell you that it's not okay to hit someone for no reason. So why do you do that? You do that out of fear, not out of love. And as you begin to love yourself, as you begin to forgive yourself, as you begin to move into that love, that it overflows into others. You can't pour something into someone else's cup that you don't have. And so I'll finish up with that. Be like the sickle pod. When the world tells you that you're not good enough, that you're just an old weed that needs to be done away with, look for your use. Look for your purpose. It's in you. It was in you from the day that you were born. It will be you in you forever, because you don't cease to exist. I hope you've enjoyed our little chat tonight. Fire's going down a little bit. Now I'm going to see how the Braves are doing against the Dodgers, and look for some more morning love coming up next week. Oh yeah, I will show you guys the clay pot deal with the greenhouse today. I didn't get a chance to go get the materials, but we'll close that in. Like I said, we're getting into the 40s this week. It's time to warm up the greenhouse. But anyway, until next time, I love you. Namaste.